Hey there, bookkeeping side hustle community. It's Kate. I'm excited to be here with you today. I've been wanting to do this interview for a very long time. I'm interviewing two students at the Western Governors University accounting program. Got a master's student and a bachelor's student. And first of all, full disclosure, I'm not getting paid for this to do this interview. I'm not affiliated with this university, but I wanted to, one of my goals is to make sure that people who want to become cloud bookkeepers and virtual bookkeepers and build a bookkeeping business like I promote, that they actually know bookkeeping, that they realize that every click we make in the software, there's a debit and a credit behind it. Like we are accounting professionals, and I'm trying to, kind of combat some of the messaging that I see out there that any old schmuck can be a bookkeeper. Like, no, like this is hard work. You have to be educated. There's lots of ways to learn what you need to learn to do the job. Formal degree is not necessarily the only way to do it. A lot of people don't do it, but I think we're going to learn that this is a pretty valuable program. And I heard people talk about it in the Bookkeeping Side Hustle Facebook group. And so I had to get this little panel together. So I want our guests to share their experience. I want you all to chime in with questions in the chat. I will be able to field them. We scripted a few questions that I know I wanted to ask, but I'll also field yours if you ask them. And so we're going to try to spend the next 20 or 30 minutes just figuring out what kind of academic program this is. So I want us to meet our panelists. Before I do, have them introduce themselves. Y'all chime in who are listening live. Tell us where you're from. Maybe offer what kind of accounting education you have. And we'll hear from our guests right now. Sarah, can you introduce yourself? Tell us your name. Give us the quick background of where you are in the Western Governors Program. And why don't we get a little nerdy and you tell us your favorite accounting class you've had so far?
Okay. So I'm Sarah. I would say, a little over halfway through, well, about 60% of the way through the bachelor's degree at Western Governors. And my favorite accounting class so far was actually the tax class.
Okay.
So it was taxation.
One of those crazy tax people. All right. And Taylor, what about you?
All right, so I'm Taylor, and I have been enrolled at WGU for a couple of years. So I've been there since 2017. I did a bachelor's, and now I am actually just a few weeks away from finishing a master's degree. And favorite class so far would definitely be forensic accounting. So we looked at like money laundering and things like that, and that was fun.
Awesome. Very interesting. I never have learned forensic accounting. So
very fun.
Right. So I want us to just start with the facts. I want us to discuss some of the administrative stuff, like what's the application process like. Maybe Sarah, you should take that part because Taylor has been a while, although you can talk about the master's application. The cost, financial aid. It's been a long time since I was a formal student. So what's the financial aid process like? How the classes are taught. How about we just start with application and cost?
Okay.
Sarah, can you start us off on the bachelor side?
Sure. So what I started with, they assign you like an enrollment person. So you get a designated person that you're working with, and then that person helps you through the process. You send over all of your transcripts, anything that you've already done, and they do an evaluation. They let you know which courses they'll transfer in, let you know which courses you'll still need to take. And then you kind of do the application you do your FAFSA like you would for any other school.
Okay.
For the financial aid, they send the information to WGU, and then they'll send you a notification saying, okay, well, this is what we estimate your out-of-pocket should be, so this is how much your financial aid will be. And it's the same as other colleges. You have Pell Grants, you have student loan options, there's scholarships available. As far as cost, it's $35.75, I think, currently for a semester. And that's where it is different from regular schools because the semester is 6 months.
Okay.
But during that time, they'll assign you 4 classes that you do. So that's a full-time load, like 13 credits or something.
Okay.
but you can accelerate. So if you finish those 4, then they can add more in.
And
So
the
you
tuition
could,
doesn't change.
no, the
Okay.
tuition does not change.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Okay.
as many courses as you can get through for that 3,500.
Taylor, what about the cost of the application process for the master's?
So the master's is pretty much the same thing. Since I did a bachelor's, they already had all my transcripts and I actually didn't have to submit anything. I just did another enrollment application for a master's program and they got back to me really quickly. They had me set up with a start date within a few weeks of doing that. Of course, with a master's, you don't get FAFSA, but they still do everything like student loans. They do military GI bills. They do work programs for tuition assistance and things like that for both the bachelor's and the master's. So it was really, really easy for me actually to get into the master's after I'd done a bachelor's with them because all of my stuff transferred in.
Okay. So now let's talk about like how these classes are administered, because in my mind, like if you're assigned 4 classes, like how do you decide to like accelerate or not? Like, is it everything virtual? Do you ever have live classes? Or I don't understand how the you could accelerate during a semester program. Taylor, could you take that one?
Yeah, so at WGU, it's a little bit different. Like she said, a term is 6 months, and you don't take off for like Christmas week break or a summer break or anything like that. It's 6 months back to back to back. Every class is totally online. Your textbooks are given to you online and included in that tuition price, which is really cool.
Okay.
Once you do one class, you move to your next class. So it's one class after another instead of having 3 courses at a time or 4 courses at a time.
Oh,
Yeah, so in the master's program, a semester is only 3 classes because they're worth more credits. So full time's a little bit less credit wise. So once you finish one course, you go to the next one. So someone who's been in the industry, or if you're in an earlier part of the program, you can get stuff done a little bit faster and test out of them faster. Essentially, you take the exam, and when you pass the exam, you've passed the class. So there's no intermediate coursework or anything like that. It's not, hey, submit a Blackboard by 2 p.m. every Tuesday, make a note, whatever. It's pretty cool. So once you take the exam and you can test out of the class, you're done. And they're pretty neat. So the exams are proctored. So someone sits on a camera and watches you from their proctoring company, and they are open 24/7, 365. So if I wanted to take an exam at 2 a.m. on Christmas, I could. It's really flexible, which is nice because I have kids. So you can go one after another. And if you have enough time, they'll only let you open up courses so many days before the end of your term. So if you only have like 2 weeks left, they're not going to let you open another course because you won't pass it clearly. So once you finish one, you can keep rolling and you open up one more every time. You have a mentor that you work with, a student mentor. And I think in the bachelor's program, or at least in your first term, you have to talk to them once a week. After that, you can talk to them every 2 weeks. And it's essentially your attendance for the FAFSA and financial aid stuff, whether you use financial aid or not.
so Sarah, let's move to you. So doesn't sound like there's a live professor or any student like friends or student projects or anything. Like you're real. This is a solo thing.
For the most part, yes. There are like Facebook groups where people go. There's
Okay.
different study groups that people have set up, for the different programs that they're in. There's also one for accelerators. There's one for procrastinators. there's,
Yes,
there's all
there
kinds.
is.
I might be in both. But sometimes there are live instructions. They're called cohorts.
Okay.
And you can sign up for them. You can attend live, and then there's an instructor who leads you through the lesson. You can ask questions as you go in the chat. So there's not a lot of interruption like people verbally asking, but they'll go through the questions in the chat. They also have those available as recordings. So if you're not able to attend at the times that they have, or if the time they have is 2 weeks from now, but you really want to learn that lesson today, then you could just go in and listen to the recorded one. And those are pretty helpful, just because it kind of gives you that added information that's maybe not in the textbook.
Yeah. So do you think that, like, would y'all both consider yourself like pretty, like, you have to be a good self teacher, or when you're logging on, do you feel like, do you still have the sense of like, is there a man or woman who's like recorded these lessons ahead of time that are playing? Like, do you feel like you have a teacher, or are you just kind of reading a textbook?
You do have a teacher,
Okay.
and you can set up an appointment with them. So
Okay.
they can talk to you on the phone. You can ask them any questions that you have. It's just not a typical classroom setting.
Okay. Well, it sounds super flexible. Obviously, like accounting is accounting. So like if you study and pass a test. Like there's no way to like fake that. I'm thinking more of
No.
like an English degree or something.
They're
like, how do
very
you-
picky. Very picky.
Okay.
When you submit papers, they go into a database, percentages count as far as you can't have more than like 10% from one specific source. You can't have more than 30% of your paper from any sources total. They're very picky. When you're proctored on your exams, they check your whole room. You're on a camera live the whole time. No talking, no one in the room. It's on the up and up. They're very picky about that.
Okay. I'm looking at our list here. Y'all chime in if you have any questions. Also, and if anyone's watching this after the fact, which is how most of my interviews are watched, ask a comment below, and I am connected with Taylor and Sarah, and I'll find an answer for you if you ask not live, if you ask a question not live. Taylor, what drew you to this particular degree program? There's lots out there, and I know you had told me earlier you were attending a different school before this. So what made you switch to this?
So one, I'm a really self-taught learner. I like to read something, handwrite my notes, and that's how I study and really retain well. And so I liked the model, but the price tag really didn't hurt.
Yeah. Okay.
So that was part of it. Yeah, I mean, that's a big deal when you can get a degree for this price. Like, that's a big deal. And I was a stay-at-home mom when I started at WGU. I still stay home and I homeschool our kids. So for me, the flexibility has absolutely been paramount, honestly. I wouldn't have been able to go to a brick and mortar school and get this degree done having kids. There's no way.
That's such a good story. Sarah, what about you? What drew you to this program?
So I actually looked at a few schools, and WG wasn't the first one that had come up on my radar just because it didn't. I wasn't really familiar with it. But I was looking at an accounting degree, and I started with one that's in my state, but you can do it online as well. And I got interested. I was like, well, okay, well, yeah, let me go ahead and find out more information. And I saw that a friend of mine had graduated from WGU.
Okay.
So I put it on my list too. And then I did one other, and I did submit my transcripts to all of them to kind of see where we're at. And WGU accepted more than the other ones.
More transfer credits?
More transfer credits, and was going to be significantly cheaper even if I didn't accelerate. Even if I took the full time, it was going to be cheaper when given the financial aid and given the cost of it already.
Okay.
Plus the added benefit of not having to pay for books. Although, admittedly, sometimes I wish I had a book because
like a hard copy, like that we went to the college bookstore and bought the used book. Interesting. Okay, so I mean, can you go to like Office Max and print your book though if you need and bind it, or
you can always order them on Amazon. You get the ISBN up front, just like any other college class. But every book they give you is included with tuition online, like as a digital copy. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so in my case, I'm like, well, I don't want to pay extra to have it because I do have it, but sometimes it'd be nice to just hold it and like highlight.
There's certain courses it would make more sense to do paper copies. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's just something people can budget for if that's your learning style. I mean, you have to. We're all different. Like people will talk about like paperless, and I'm like, if you see, like, I could not be like for you people with no printers are weird species to me. I'm always going to be a printer outer person.
Yep.
So. Before we move on, because this is for an administrative question, Alyssa Ellis is asking if you're taking courses at the normal pace, how many semesters will it take to complete the bachelor's? Sarah, that'd be for you.
It depends on how many credits you transfer in. Most of the people attending, if not all, have transfer credits of some sort. Primarily, it's not for, you just graduated high school, so you're going to go get a degree. It's kind of more aimed for people who have experience or some sort of education.
Okay.
So
admissions does favor that a little bit. And if you don't have enough, they will push you to go to like Sophia or Straighter Line and complete some courses before you go into WGU. So you have practice with the online model if you've been at a brick and mortar school. That happens a lot.
Okay.
Right. So like in my case, I already had an associate's degree and it was about 50% of the degree. So then they figured 2 years.
Okay. But so this would not be a program for the like 18, 19-year-old typically.
Not usually.
I mean, let's say it. If it's not, it's not.
Right. Not usually.
Not usually. It's harder to get in if you aren't transferring in credits or have experience.
I
Admissions
wonder
wise.
I wonder if the concern is about the virtual learning, if they will
Yeah.
start accepting more high schoolers, because a lot of high schoolers are starting to be really good at virtual learning. So this is being recorded in 2022, y'all. So if you're young and listening and made it this far, like maybe
You have a chance.
maybe reach back out and prove that no, like I can learn this way. I am self-taught. I taught, I was a COVID high schooler and I had to learn calculus on my own. So thank you very much. I can do your college. So that's okay. That's a great question, Alyssa. Hopefully that gives you so actually I don't know that it did. It depends on how many you transfer. So let's say you transfer half credits in for a degree.
Right.
How long at normal pace, Sarah?
So 2 years.
2
at
years.
normal pace.
So it's kind of like they still are under this bachelor's degree is a 4-year degree model. But
I did mine in 3 even with transfer credits because I accelerated 1 or 2 terms and not the rest of them.
Okay.
But it's only 3 terms, which is 18 months, a year and a half for the masters if you transfer clearly in nothing.
Okay.
If you go at snail's pace, it's only 3 terms.
And you're doing yours masters is a lot faster, right?
In about a year.
You're getting okay.
In about a year, yeah.
I'm gonna move us along. How do you manage attending school and your other responsibilities? Since this school is geared for working professionals, older students, how did y'all handle that? How do you see your classmates handling it? Any advice for folks with families or jobs? Taylor, you want to start with that one?
Sure. So my husband works outside of the home. He works really weird hours. He works an evening shift and a swing shift where days change. So I have no help. We have 2 kids. We homeschool. I have no help with like getting them to sports practices and things like that. I have a full plate. I already have a bookkeeping business I started in March of this year. So all the things I've been going to school since our kids were born, since our youngest was born. So for me, the trick is to get up earlier than the rest of my household. I usually try to get up a couple hours before everyone else and I get my stuff done. Yep. And I know a lot of people either swear by that. It's called the night owls. I'm not a night owl. I'm a horrible night owl. I'm like every excuse in the book. Oh, I'm just so tired. I'd like to go to bed. So I set an early alarm. I get up really early and then I get almost all my stuff done in the mornings. And then I'll actually schedule my exams for at night after my kids go to bed. So there's no interruptions. I'm super type A. So like my planner's color coded. I keep a Google Calendar between my work appointments and my personal stuff, my school stuff. So I'll actually schedule in my study time on my calendar just like it's a business meeting so that I can't avoid it or push it off for a different time.
Wow.
Yeah.
That seems like a great plan. What about you, Sarah?
So the thing that I really love is the flexibility because it allows me, sometimes I'm not as busy with work. So then I can, really devote my time and go through classes pretty quickly. But then it also gives that leeway of, oh, well, I'm swamped right now because it's end of the year or it's tax season or whatever. And then it affords that ability to, kind of not do anything for a week or 2. Like you have that flexibility because you don't have deadlines. You have the end of the semester, but other than that, it's not like, oh, you have a paper due on the 2nd and you have
Right.
a meeting every Friday or something like that.
That's huge. So they start you off with 4 classes per term, but you don't get like kicked out if you only say I'm only able to do 3?
You do.
They don't.
Yeah.
So kind of.
Go ahead. Yeah. They'll let you know if you haven't interacted with a textbook or an instructor or your mentor within like 14 days. They send you emails and texts. And if you haven't done anything within 28 days, they can kick you out of the school. If you haven't been communicating, at least telling your student mentor, hey, my whole family's sick. We had a funeral, back-to-back whatevers. If you're communicating with them, it's not quite the same. But if you don't do any interaction and you just like go hush and go off the grid for a while, they can kick you out of the school.
Okay.
Right.
So
So you have
that's what I was going to say. Heads up.
Yeah. Yeah. Like she mentioned earlier, you are assigned a mentor. So they call weekly. It like with mine, it's usually a quick call, just check in. Oh, what are your goals for the week? And I'll let them know, like, okay, well, the next couple weeks are going to be really crazy, or something like that. As long as there's communication.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as not finishing all of your classes, it goes against your total your total number
Academic
of credits that
progress.
you have left.
Yeah.
Right. So if you still are on track to end when you're supposed to, then it's not a huge deal if you don't finish the classes. It'll roll over to your next term.
Okay.
But obviously it's not ideal,
Doesn't look
and you
good.
don't
Okay.
want to, right, and you
And it
don't
can
want to get
affect your
into the
financial
position,
aid. Yeah.
yeah, you don't want to get in the position where your satisfactory is so low that maybe you don't qualify for financial aid anymore.
Awesome. I think that's great advice. We have someone named Val listening, and she's chiming in saying that normal pay seems a little bit odd, of an odd comparison because you have so many free hours compared to hours available in a brick and mortar building. She says I can study at 4 a.m. or 10 p.m. and plus the cohorts and response time for questions are amazing compared to what my local university was. So Val, I'm curious, are you current student? Or are you already a graduate and just here to cheer on your alma mater? What's your experience with Western Governors? And let us know if you have any questions that these two current students can ask. Okay, let's talk about some goals. So I want to know when you're going to finish, you're going to graduate, and what are your goals for like 1 year and 5 years? Taylor, let's start with you.
Okay. So like I said earlier, I'm in the last weeks of my master's. I'll have one class. I know,
Give her a thumbs
the
up, everybody.
finish line is in sight, okay? I feel like I've been doing school forever, but I didn't accelerate like some do. So like I said earlier, some folks will literally quit their job and do a master's degree in 6 months. So you pay $4,700 and you have a master's degree, and it's insane.
Wow.
I don't have that flexibility right now. There's no way I could do that. But I'm in the last few weeks. I will definitely be done by February. I have my last 2 classes to finish. I just finished one last week before I flew to California. So super, super close to the finish line. And then I actually already opened my own bookkeeping business back in March. I decided, screw it, why wait? So I went ahead and jumped ship and I said, let's do this. And I plan to go for my EA, my enrolled agent, later this year after I graduate. That's the next on the learning block for me. I think a lot of my clients we had talked about, so I don't plan to go for my CPA in Virginia. CPA licensure requires working a year full-time for another CPA so they can sign for your hours. And my business has been super successful. When my clients hear that I like went for my degree or I'm almost done with my degree, they're like, awesome, we're done. You don't need your CPA, whatever. Usually they feel very confident in my abilities once they learn that I've put in the work and done all these classes. So I don't intend to go for my CPA, but I will do the EA soon.
Just real quick, does your program prepare you for the EA, or will you just do another study program and take that specific test to study for
I'm probably going to do a different program. My last class is an advanced tax course, and I've taken other tax courses through my bachelor's as well. I'll probably do a second program just because, but it'll be like one of those self-paced modules where you just kind of go and train yourself to take each of the 3 parts. Yeah.
Just studying for the test. Okay.
Yeah.
Sarah, what about you? 1 year, 5 year, where do you see yourself?
So I plan on finishing up my degree in the next year. I had originally planned to accelerate because everybody has these ambitions. It's like, oh yeah, I can be one of those people. I read about all those ones who complete 60 credits in a semester. Sign me up, right? But that's not real life for me. So I'd say in the next year, and mostly it's just been just to cross it off my list, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just something that I wanted to complete. I've never had a client ask me about it. And I've considered the master's course as well, mainly because of the forensic accounting, which was what was kind of luring me to a different school, was because they had a degree specifically in that, but it wasn't going to work out time. I'm like, well, over one class, I'm not going to spend, $10,000 more.
Right.
But I don't plan to be a CPA either. I'm already an EA, so that pretty much, for bookkeeping and taxes, I feel like there's adequate preparation without being a CPA on top of that.
I'm curious if you're enamored with the forensic accounting. I don't hear a lot of self-employed forensic accounting. Not that I really even know what forensic accounting is. I mean, I know it's like fraud stuff, but do you have goals to like work in that field? And would that mean you have to work for somebody? And so then in that regard, the degrees are going to be really helpful if you're job searching?
Yeah, I don't really think so.
Okay.
Because I do enjoy being self-employed. It's just one of those interests, like, oh, it's like detective work, like sort it out. But
Okay. Okay. Well, you'll have to let us know if you end up going for the master's. So it sounds like both of y'all's plan is an entrepreneurial plan. That's not surprising since I found y'all in my bookkeeping side hustle group. So I guess, do any of y'all want to respond to the question about like, what are your classmates doing? If any people in those Facebook groups, how are they going to be using these degrees? Because maybe a lot of people listening to this, I'm hoping people who maybe realize they don't want to be an entrepreneur are listening to this interview. So do you feel like most people in this program are going to take the entrepreneurial path, or are they getting jobs? Does the school help you get a job? Taylor, what about you?
Okay. So I know a lot of people take, especially in the master's program, go for CPA afterwards. A lot of them do. That's the path that they're on. Before they go into it, they always check. And WGU is, I don't actually know what the word is, qualified, I guess. Your degree is acceptable in all 50 states now. They've really been fighting for that in the past couple of years because there were a few states that didn't play as well with the WGU degrees to get the CPA licensure. And now all 50 states take it. So a lot of people in the program are going for CPA. A lot of people are going for like those top 4 jobs and things like that. There's a lot of us that are in there for self-education at this point, honestly, as well. I think a lot of us have really liked it. A lot of the programs and the coursework, I think, are probably geared towards getting a job. And they do offer help with that. They do resume checks and help you write resumes. They do career fairs and things like that. And they also have a handshake program that they use for posting jobs for WGU grads as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything to add, Sarah?
Yeah. So a lot of the ones that are in the groups that I'm in, so pursuing different bachelor's programs, some of it accounting, some of it some other degrees, it seems like they're doing it if they're changing their career. So maybe going into a different field. Maybe they were in healthcare, now they want to do accounting, or the other way around. I see a lot of those posts. But the majority of the posts that I see are related to a job. So being an employee for someone. Basically gaining skills. Maybe they need it for a promotion. Maybe they're trying to get a raise at work and their employer says, well, if you had this degree, so they go to WGU to get that degree.
Okay. I think that's great info. I'm curious if any of y'all listening now or after the fact chime in and below on leave a comment about whether you're thinking WGU is a good fit for you for an entrepreneurial path or for a accounting job path. Okay, well, we're gonna wrap up here. Y'all both said a lot of things like, high praise of the program. So I always like to do what I call like the good, the bad, and the ugly. Like, tell us something that you would change, something that isn't all roses about this program, so we present a full picture. Is there anything that hasn't gone so well for you or that you don't like, even though there's a lot that you do like? Sarah, could you start with that question?
So really the thing that I love is also kind of the thing that I hate sometimes.
Okay.
And that is the flexibility, right? So you have to really be on top of yourself. It's nice to have the flexibility to be able to do what you need to do with your family, with work, with all of that, and still be able to do school. But sometimes it's hard when you don't have those deadlines set for you. So you have to set them for yourself and you have to stay on track. Otherwise, I mean, then it's 2 months and maybe you haven't done anything. And it's,
Yeah.
So that's what I like and dislike about it. And obviously my little thing about the books, but that's not a huge thing. That's just something that, in some classes I'm like, oh, I'd really like to have that in front of me. But like I said, I like the cohorts to be able to go in and listen. So then maybe it clarifies some things I have questions on, and also being able to get in touch with the instructors. That's from when I've gotten in touch with them. It's been very easy. It's pretty quick to be, you don't have to wait weeks for an appointment or anything. Usually they have some that day or the next day available.
Awesome. Taylor, what about you? What's a thumbs down?
So for me, I'm fortunate that I'm really a pen and paper learner, so I can read a book and take notes. The biggest complaint I hear is there are quite a few courses, especially once you get to the master's level, that they don't have the recorded cohorts or even the interactive live ones. So a lot of people miss out. But like she said, there's a Facebook group for everything anyways, but there's a WGU Accelerators Facebook group. And a lot of people will post resources in there. So like Quizlets that match up to that course. But there's also a guy called Farhat who does lectures on YouTube for the CPA exam, and he does quite a few for all the courses at WGU that get covered by that. So if you're a video learner, it's something you want to like go for, because they don't supply all of those in the course itself. There are some courses I've taken, the one that I just finished, it is literally you get the textbook and that's it. There's no other tips, there's no resources, there's nothing saying, hey, this section is 20% of your exam, this one's 11, don't stress about it so much. So there are actually some courses where you are totally on your own, and that can be kind of
Wow.
frustrating. Yeah, there's a couple of them. Some of them are great, some of them you have like so many resources you'd never even look at all of them, there's no way. But there's a few where I think that's really lacking, and every time I take one of those, I submit it in the course feedback at the end of the course when they ask.
So make it more like a little bit
Helpful.
closer to traditional class with
Yeah.
resources, not just go buy a book at Barnes and Noble and read it and call yourself an accountant.
Pretty much. Yep, pretty
Got
much.
it.
There's a few of those.
Okay, but mostly in the master's program, you said?
Yeah, I didn't notice it so much in the bachelor's. In the bachelor's, there were a lot of extra resources. There's a few in the master's that I've noticed that just have no resources at all for you, really. So you can call in and ask your instructor, but if you don't know to call in and ask the instructor for help, or just if they have extra resources, you're kind of SOL.
Yeah, okay. Let's end with one last thing that you want someone considering pursuing this degree, or maybe even any degree, to know. Y'all have taken different paths. Your lives are different. Y'all don't know each other, but y'all have made the choice to do this thing that you didn't have to do necessarily, especially because y'all are having success in your business. So I want us to encourage that person that's listened this far. That means they're actually very interested, but maybe they have not had those messages, those soundtracks in their minds that some people are blessed with, where that you can do it. So just one thing you want to share with someone who's considering it, kind of a rah wrap up here. Sarah, can you go first?
Sure. So yeah, I think that the whole process has been super easy. Everyone I've worked with has been really supportive. I don't feel like anywhere along the way anybody's dropped the ball on anything that I've needed or tried to get done. I haven't had any issues that way. Something that I would recommend, though, that I didn't know before I transferred my courses in and enrolled, once you get your transcript evaluation and they let you know which courses, before enrollment, there's some of the courses you can take on Sophia or the WGU Academy. And that's a much lower cost if you just kind of, get some of those knocked out of the way, to do it that way. And then that's fewer that you have to be paying more for and fitting in at WGU.
Okay. Taylor, what about you?
Cool. Honestly, it's been a fantastic experience for me. I've loved it. My mentors have been fantastic. They're like, hey, how are your kids? How was the travel to here? They're all very invested in you. It's been a really, really good experience. And I've never had a client say, ooh, you went to WGU. Nah, you're not the accountant for me. Everyone's been very positive, very, you got the degree or you're working towards a degree. And that's great for me, honestly. I've loved it.
One question I have, what if someone has not had any education, finished high school, maybe didn't for whatever reason, and maybe their career isn't even that professional yet, or maybe they had a child very young, and they're not transferring in maybe even anything. Are there is WGU a fit for that person if they have made the mental decision that I'm a different person, I'm going to college? Would that person fit in there in this program? Sarah, what do you think?
Maybe.
Okay.
Like we had said before, it might be harder for admissions.
Okay.
But I think it's definitely worth having the conversation with them. Let them know, I completed high school. I've done this since then. I'm really interested in your program. What are my options? What am I looking at? And maybe and since I've not been in that position, I don't know for sure. But from what I've seen, it seems like they kind of recommend Sophia or maybe the WGU Academy, just to kind of get you up to speed with how the classes work and get some classes under your belt.
But still achievable. I mean, it's the message is they're gonna they're going to help you solve the problems and get you to where you need to be to succeed, if as long as you put in the effort. So you have a longer path. They're going to say, do these things first and call us back. But if you do the things, you can call them back.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
that's been my impression. So.
Okay. Y'all, ladies, thank you. I'm going to wrap us up so people will watch this replay and not think it's too long. What a blessing it has been to hear from y'all. I pray that the people who are listening to this and who need this information get it, and that it's going to open doors for some. And I hope it's a big slam for others for whom this would not be a good fit. That's like the ultimate goal, is the people who don't want to need to waste their time and money doing this, but for whatever reason, don't do it. Yeah. And the people who are like, oh man, I've kind of dreamed of this, and like this,
go for it.
This might actually work. That we've maybe presented a solution for them. So thanks to those of you who are watching live, and for those of you watching replays, comment below, reach out to these gals in the Facebook group, thank them for their time. If you need encouragement, if you need an unofficial mentor, they're in our community and can give you that high five and give that push, maybe even help you assess whether you should go for it, or if you don't need it, then that's okay too. So please lean on them. Our community is such a great community and helpful. So they volunteered to be on this panel, and so they're already exhibiting helpfulness. So I'm going to wrap up. Thank you again. I appreciate everyone listening. Yes, Sarah, thank you. Thank you, Taylor. And we will see you on the Facebook group, y'all. Bye.